The Rams appear to solve their biggest problem on day one of NFL free agency, while the Chargers looked all their cap space over and put it on crypto or something. And a former LAFC player is banned for life from MLS for gambling on soccer. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is March 10th, 2026. Welcome back to the home office. We have a ton to discuss with day one of NFL free agency out of the way. For the Rams and the Chargers, I took the liberty of describing what happened in shorthand for their biggest team needs. And we're going to break it all the way down in just a couple of moments. But in the meantime, if you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Now, before we go through the notes and stuff, quick look at the scoreboard. It's a good day for the Angelenos. Clippers 126, New York 118. Kawhi Leonard scored 29. Also, Kings 5, Columbus 4 in overtime. Adrian Kepe scored twice. Meanwhile, today, Mini Scrotum is in town to play the Lakers at 8. The Kings are at Boston. That game's at 4. And LD Alajuelense is at LAFC at 8 o'clock. It's the CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16 in the first leg. So with that out of the way, let's get to the news. I'm one of those guys who hates saying that a team wins the offseason because that team never wins the regular season, right? But considering that the Rams were just a couple of pass defenses away from getting to the Super Bowl, the Rams just won the offseason. They totally did. They had a glaring problem. Glaring more than every light on your dashboard going on at once. And from the looks of things, just solve that issue like that. Everywhere else on the roster, the Rams had come at me, bro, level of talent, except for cornerback. So what did they do in the last week? Well, we already discussed in depth the trade for Trent McDuffie. Well, Monday, they added his former teammate from the Kansas City Chiefs in corner Jalen Watson, 3 years, $51 million. This is a clear signal. Because you see, for years, the Rams treated the defensive backfield as if it were just an afterthought. Since they got rid of Jalen Ramsey, the Rams have allowed more 100-yard receiving games than any other team in the league, 26. And frankly, that was pretty much by design. The NFL salary cap makes you pick your poison. You can't have a super team that's also deep. The salary cap makes you pick which positions you're not going to excel in. So the Rams pushed in all the chips on having an elite pass rush to get to the quarterback and hope the backfield would hold up. Place your bets, no regrets. And for the most part, kind of worked until they got to Seattle. Obviously, it crapped out. Now, regarding adding Watson, he's not on McDuffie's level. But they don't need him to be on McDuffie's level, even though he is in the argument for the best free agent cornerback on the market. Watson is coming off the best season of his career. He finished with a career-high 2 interceptions, 64 tackles. He also tied career highs with 6 pass breakups and 2 sacks. The bottom line is this. When you face the Chiefs or the Kansas City Swifties, whatever we want to call them, you wouldn't want to throw on McDuffie. So they would try to choose Watson. They would pick their poison. And the dude held up under pressure. Pro Football Focus, or PIF, said Watson was one of just 2 corners that played more than half of their team's defensive snaps and did not concede a touchdown. What we have on the board is, in effect, if you look at the upper part of the board, your starting defensive backfield for the Rams. Whatever cap space that the Rams have left can be used for backup DBs, Could be used for a third wide receiver. All of it is pretty much reserves. And by the way, at pick number 13 in the upcoming draft, if the Rams choose not to look for Matthew Stafford's successor, I've been saying that is a possibility. At pick 13, you know darn well there's going to be a good receiver on the board to take. So the Rams are set up quite nicely for a Super Bowl run. Meanwhile, another step was taken to patch together a functional kicking unit. The Rams signed long snapper Joe Cardona. You might recall things were so bad with the Rams special teams, they brought back Jake McQuaid during last season because the only kicks that the special teams could make were the kicks between Sean McVay's legs. But that wasn't a long-term solution. McQuaid is 37. The dude can't be long snapping until he's eligible for discounts at Black Bear Diner. And the Rams also were awarded 2 compensatory picks in the upcoming draft. Now look, you can't solve a lot of problems in the 7th round with 2 compensatory picks, but you could at least take a flyer on a potential backup for minimum wage. So, while it is true that the Raiders made a ton of headlines, as they should, they had a bunch of holes on the roster and way more than $100 million in cap space, the Rams are actually your winners. They had a problem, they addressed it in spades. They had 1, maybe 2 steps to take to become the team to beat in the NFC. And also, when you remember Seattle lost off their roster yesterday, I think at this point they are the favorites in the NFC. If you're a Rams fan, let me know what you think in the comments thread. There's a saying in politics: if you're explaining, you're losing. So it's not that the Chargers lost in day 1 of NFL free agency, but they will have quite a bit of explaining to do in the days ahead. Perhaps the best way to put it is this: they lost all 3 starters on the interior offensive line and added just 2. In other words, they're a player short with their needs. Same for the defensive pass rush. In other words, they lost more than what they gained on both the offensive and defensive lines. And by the way, the additions are not necessarily sure things, which is really concerning for a team that went into Monday with a ton of cap space. They were one of the top 5 teams with cap space. So you take guard Cole Strange, hell of a name, by the way, who played under offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel when McDaniel was the coach of the Dolphins. So, does this guy know the playbook? Obviously. But the dude is on his 4th team, and a couple of years ago blasted out his patellar tendon. Bad knees. Sounds like a Charger lineman already, wouldn't you say? Just like incoming center Tyler Biadasz signing for $10 million, though, Strange is getting something around $6.5 million. So they're both affordable. But then you sit there and go, okay, well, they're affordable, but it's not like the Chargers were up against the salary cap at all. Why are they going around the cheap? While the numbers have yet to be verified, by the way, after what they spent in day 1, overthecap.com suggests that the Chargers have more than $57 million yet in quote-unquote effective cap space. By the way, effective cap space means you take your total cap space, you take what you have to use on draft picks, put that off to the side. The rest is effective. $57 million. And they went on the cheap for their offensive line. General Manager Joe Ortiz said he wasn't going to go overboard. Obviously he didn't. But people are going to want to know why. In other words, you're going to have to start explaining it. The Rams don't even have to explain what they did. The Chargers do. Now, I'm not trying to say that all the moves are cringe. One of the reasons that there are some coaches that like zone blocking schemes, such as Mike McDaniel, is there's a belief that you can get by with a cheaper offensive line. You want smaller offensive linemen. You pay premium for big offensive linemen. The zone offensive line scheme, you're running back and forth, side to side. You need quick linemen. They got to be smaller so you can replace them cheaper. Moreover, the Chargers replaced Will Dissly with blocking tight end Charlie Kolar, 3 years, $24 million. Now, you might find this hard to believe, but he is the latest in a conga line of players from Baltimore going straight into the Chargers locker room. Kolar, though, is said to be an upgrade. So again, not all moves are cringe. So if you throw everything in the hopper, this is what you have. 2 new offensive linemen. A couple of days ago, you added a fullback, and then you replaced another blocking tight end. And by the way, you also re-signed a reserve lineman in tackle Trevor Penning. So they're focusing their resources on blocking. It's just a different type of blocking, which means, again, you're explaining. And if you're explaining, you're losing. And by the way, if I were a Chargers fan, I would have to feel a little bit of trepidation over Monday because of who was lost. You could even say, you know what? I get why Odafe Oweh or Zion Johnson had to go. Or keeping one of them would have made that day a lot more palatable. Consider Johnson, a former first-round pick who signed with the Cleveland Browns. He was taken to task for not effectively picking up defensive ends when they would stunt to the inside. Right? If you recall the playoff games. Is it possible that the reason he didn't pick up those stunting defensive linemen is that it should have been communicated to him prior to the snap by former center Brad Bozeman? All 3 interior Charger linemen in those 2 playoff losses got pistol whipped. Is it possible because Bozeman didn't communicate to the 2 guards? Had they decided to keep Johnson, because he's actually a pretty effective run blocker, you don't have a hole at guard now, which you have now. As for losing Oweh, I can't say that I have much of a problem with it. We've been talking about it for a week. You can draft Khalil Mack's heir apparent in the first round or the second. Tuli Tuipulotu learned from Mack and Joey Bosa as a rookie. So you could literally repeat the process by drafting Oweh's replacement. And it's a far better idea to do that than to pay Oweh $25 million a year like Washington did. Oweh only had 1 year in LA. It was his best year of his career. Oweh also benefited greatly from being on the field in obvious passing down situations alongside Mack and Tuipulotu. The opposing offensive line would have to double team Mack. That gave Oweh a free shot right to the quarterback. Washington paid Oweh as if he were Khalil Mack. That's my point. So in other words, had they kept Zion Johnson, in my opinion, this day 1 would have looked a lot more palatable, and the Chargers sure as hell had the money to do it. By the way, while the Rams were awarded compensatory picks for players that they lost, the Chargers were not. Go figure. So as you can tell, tons to discuss in the NFL. If you're a Charger fan, let me know what you think in the comments thread. Major League Soccer banned former LAFC midfielder Yaboa for life for betting on matches. Now, to be clear, the allegations are that Yaboa placed wagers on Columbus when he played for the Columbus Crew, alongside former teammate Derek Jones, who was also banned for life. Yaboa did win an MLS Cup with Columbus. They are not saying he placed bets while he was at LAFC. But the black and gold dumped him in January. They didn't say so, but let's be real. They had an inkling there was an investigation going. Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you? Yaboa, by the way, is currently playing in China. So, good luck to him. Or something. While the scribes continue to hyperventilate into a paper bag over Bronny James, Laker rookie Adu Thiero scored 25 points for their G League affiliate out in South Bay. He sank 10 of the 12 shots he attempted. He sank all of 5 3-point attempts. Now, asked if it made a difference, Lakers coach JJ Redick is all, cool story, bro. Quote, I have a hard enough time when we're healthy getting everybody minutes as it is. Definitely want to get them opportunities. Those opportunities are not there right now. That's just the reality. So, you looked good in G League, my dude. Got to keep your patience. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about if I'm wrong. Did the Rams not solve their problems? Did the Chargers have a much better day than I give them credit for? By all means, let me know. And if you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.